So, welcome ulit, CH0121. So, we are on our another chapter, no? So, we're going to tackle about gravimetry or gravimetric analysis. So, habang nag-discuss tayo, tandaan nyo yung core idea dito sa gravimetry, which is inihiwalay natin ang analyte sa isang form na pwede nating timbangin. Yung keyword is timbangin or i-weigh. Then, i-convert natin yun pabalik sa hinahanap na concentration or percentage, no? So, quick overview dito, meron tayong tinatawag na particulate gravimetry, electrogravimetry, volatilization gravimetry, and precipitation gravimetry. Okay. Bago tayo mag-proceed, no? Itong presentation ay nanggaling kay Professor Annalyn Falcatan of the College of Science, no? So, ito yung PowerPoint niya way back 2020. And most of the references naman is kapares naman dun sa references list natin based sa syllabus. So this chapter provides an overview of the basic concepts and calculations in gravimetric method of analysis. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe different types of gravimetric methods, ma-identify yung application ng gravimetry, sa pag-analyze ng mga samples, tapos illustrate nyo yung steps in a typical precipitation gravimetric analysis, and ma-explain nyo rin or ma-describe nyo yung mechanism ng precipitation, and of course, makapag-solve ng problems involving gravimetric analysis. So what is gravimetry? Definition muna tayo. General term ito applied to methods of analysis in which the determination is based upon the measurement of weight. So, yun yung keyword natin dito. Measurements of weight. So, yun yung focus natin sa gravimetry. Magtimbang. So, bakit powerful yung gravimetry, no? Kasi analytical balance, usually gamit natin sa pag-weigh ng mass, di ba? So, analytical balance, very accurate yan. Highly accurate and napaka-precise nung data na binibigay, lalo na kapag high resolution yung gamit natin. So, historically, ginamit ito sa pag-determine ng atomic mass, no, ng iba't ibang elements. Meaning, yun nga, doon pa na-prove, no, na talagang mataas yung accuracy na analytical balance, no. Pero remember, accurate ito. Pero if yung precipitate or yung product na wini-weigh natin is hindi pure or fully recovered, may effect din yun sa accuracy ng ating analysis. So hindi lang siya sa timbang nakadepende kundi sa purity no iyong analyte. So categorize muna natin no yung gravimetry. So meron tayong particulate gravimetry, volatilization gravimetry, precipitation gravimetry at electrogravimetry no. So bawat type iba't ibang techniques pero same lang ang mindset natin dito which is to isolate and then weight, kunin yung weight, tapos i-convert into a understandable unit of concentration. So, punta tayo sa particulate gravimetry, no? Particulate gravimetry, hina-harvest natin yung solid particles using filtration or extraction, no? Before natin timbangin. So, usually, pinapatuyo muna yan bago tinitimbang. So, makikita nyo sa ilalim yung parang schematic niya. So, may filtration, may pagtimbang, tapos filter, pinitimbang, tapos dinadry, then titimbangin ulit, no? So, maraming series of weighing din siya, no? So, example na analysis nito is TSS or Total Suspended Solids in Water. Ayan. So, important indicator to ng quality ng water sample natin, no? So, usually ginagamit itong parameter na ito ng mga water treatment plant facilities. So, ang key idea dito is yung mass na gain doon sa filter is equal to the mass ng suspended solids ng ating water sample. So, yun. The analyte is separated from samples matrix using filtration extraction. Tapos, ito yung formula ng TSS. So, yan lang pinapakita dito, no? So TSS is expressed in milligrams per liter. So dito yung final weight ng ating sample minus initial weight times 1,000 over the amount of sample taken, no? So, para bigyan kayo ng example, ng simple example, no? A 200 ml sample of water was filtered through a glass fiber filter with an initial weight of 38.4500 grams after drying to constant weight at 105 degrees Celsius. The filter weight 38.492 grams. Determine the total suspended solids for the sample in parts per million. So, ang given natin dito, meron tayong initial amount ng water sample, which is 200 ml. Tapos meron tayong initial mass ng initial weight ng filter, which is 38.45 grams. Tapos, nung finilter na yung sample, dinry yung filter paper with sample, ito na yung timbang niya, 38.492. Okay, so find the total suspended solids. Pero ang unit ay parts per million or milligrams per liter. So madali lang siya kung babasahin natin itong formula, no? Final weight is 38.492 minus initial weight, which is 38.45 divided by yung sample na, yung amount ng sample is in liters dapat, no? So kinonvert na ito, 0.2000 liters. Tapos kinonvert yung grams into milligrams. So, alam natin na 1 milligram is equal to 0.001 gram, no? Ito yan, 10 times 10 to the, 1 times 10 to the negative 3. No? So, multiply by 100, no? Overall. Tapos, yun. After makuha yung results dito ay 210 ppm. So, aside sa water sample, dito naman tayo sa air sample naman. So dito naman, the concentration of airborne particulates in an industrial workplace was determined by pulling the air through a single-stage air sampler. So nag-air sampler equipped with a glass fiber filter. So initially, may filter paper dun sa air sampler, tapos nilagyan, tapos niran through. So the air was sampled for 20 minutes at a rate of 75 cubic meters per hour. So yun yung flow rate ng ating hangin papunta dun sa air sampler. At the end of the sampling period, the filter's mass was found to have increased by 345.2 milligrams. What is the concentration of particulates in the air samples in milligrams per cubic meter? So, very straightforward naman to. So, meron tayong time dito, sample collection time, which is 20 minutes. Tapos, meron tayong flow rate, yung R, which is 75 cubic meters of air per hour. Then, yung difference daw ng mass, so di na pinakita yung initial final, no? Delta mass na lang, yung difference na lang. 345.2 milligrams. So, i-compute daw yung hindi ppm, kundi milligrams per cubic meter of air particulates, no? So, ang una natin kukunin is how much yung volume ng air na nakuha natin. So, dali lang siya. Yung 20 minutes, i-convert lang natin to R. So, maka-cancel itong minutes. Then, multiply natin dun sa flow rate, no? So, maka-cancel din yung R dito. Then, pag kinompute nyo yan, ang makukuha nyo dapat na value ay 25 cubic meters of air. So, yun yung total ng volume ng air na nakuha doon sa ating sample. Tapos, paano kunin yung concentration ng air particulates? So, madali lang siya. Yung difference ng mass over total volume of air. So, nakuha is 13.8 milligrams per cubic meter or 14 milligrams per cubic meter. Then we go to electrogravimetry. So electrogravimetry, we just deposit the analyte, usually a metal, into an electrode using current. So ang example dito drawing is meron tayong platinum gauge platinum gauge cathode. So ito yun. Yan yung mga example ng platinum gauge. Tapos, so papadaanan ng electricity yan. Ayan, ito yung setup, no? Parang electrometer. Then, ipapadeposit yung metal dito sa ating platinum gauge. Then, from gantong kulay ng solution, ganito usually analysis of copper, example yan, copper sulfate, pentahydrate usually yung solution. Tapos magiging clear siya. Then, mapupunta yung mga copper metal natin dito sa ating platinum course. Okay? So, yun yung concept ng electrogravimetry. Tapos, yung computation nun is final minus initial weight ng electrode, no? Titimbangin lang itong electrode after ng deposition, no? So, ganun lang siya. Okay, tapos, next type natin is volatilization gravimetry, no? So, sorry pala kung medyo nag-iba yung audio, no? So, nalobat kasi yung earphones ko. So, try kong gamitin tong audio ng iPad or yung mic ng iPad. So, let's go back. Volatilization gravimetry. Ina-isolate yung analyte by converting it into gas. So, example nito, moisture sa food, no? Moisture in food. So, may sample tayo ng food, nilalagay sa crucible, tapos tinitimbang, initial na timbang, then, ida-dry siya sa oven at 105 degrees Celsius. Tapos, ilalagay siya dito sa ating storage. Ano man tawag dito sa storage na to? I forgot, no? Then, after nyan, para malakin yung moisture dito, may mga silica gel dyan para ma-absorb yung moisture, additional moisture kung meron man. Titimbangin siya ulit, no? So, ang data na makukuha dyan is yung moisture content, no? Ng ating food products na nag-influence sa taste, texture, appearance, tsaka shelf life ng foodstuff, no? Pwedeng i-connect yung moisture content sa lasa, sa texture, appearance, etc. And then, yung assumption dito is water yung lagi nag-volatilize, no, sa ating foodstuff. So, ang maganda ring tanong, halimbawa meron tayong ibang samples, kung may iba pa bang parameters or may iba pa bang compounds na pwede mag-volatilize, no? If yes, sometimes overestimated ang moisture. So, formula lang sa pagkuha ng moisture, percent moisture is loss in moisture ng gram, so yung difference ng weight from the initial mass ng sample after nung dried sample niya. So, loss in moisture is equal, divided by initial weight ng ating sample, no? Times 100%. So, medyo madali lang yung trend sa gravimetry, no? More on difference ng weight over yung total number of samples times 100. So, ito pa isang type ng volatilization gravimetry, which is combustion analysis. Dito naman sinusunog yung sample, no? In excess oxygen, then we capture the gaseous products like carbon dioxide or water doon sa traps, no, na tinatawag. So, dito yung mass change ng absorber is equal to the amount of gas captured. Tapos binaback calculate lang doon sa ating analyte. So, dito sa analysis of sodium bicarbonate, napoproduce ng carbon dioxide dito, no? Dito sa ating, dito, actually hindi dyan, dito mismo, mini-measure yung carbon dioxide. Tapos, na-absorb doon sa ating sodium hydroxide. Andok muna. So, dito, ito yung mini-measure. So, carbon dioxide na na-absorb ng sodium hydroxide natin. So, initially, meron tayong solution dito in water. Tapos, papadaanan siya ng inert gas. So, example natin dito is N2, guys. N2 gas, and then, mag-evolve dyan yung carbon dioxide, then dadaan dito sa drying tube. Then, ma-absorb yung carbon dioxide na sodium hydroxide. Ito yung reaction nun. Tapos yun, titimbangin na yun afterwards. So, punta ngayon tayo dito sa sample problem 3 natin. So, meron tayo ditong a 0.2121 gram sample of an organic compound was burned in a stream of oxygen and the carbon dioxide produced was collected in a solution of barium hydroxide. So, hindi siya sodium hydroxide, no? Iba siya. If the barium carbonate form was 0.6006 grams, what is the percent carbon in the sample? So, we have here, yun, molecular weight ng barium carbonate, tsaka atomic weight ng carbon. Actually, ganun din yung formula weight din ng carbon. Then we have the given number of sample natin. Yun, 0.2121. Then yung after nung burning process, no? Or combustion process, 0.6006 grams. So to find the percent carbon in weight per weight or gram per gram nakalagay dito. So we have 0.6006 grams barium carbonate, yung ating product, over yung total number of, yung initial number of sample natin or grams ng sample natin, times sa molar mass ng barium carbonate, ito. Then, yung molar ratio ng barium carbonate to carbon, which is 1:1 lang din yan. No? 1 mole is to 1 mole. Then, 1 mole ng carbon is 12.01 grams times 100. No? May 100 pa dito sa dulo. So, dapat ang makuha ang sagot natin dyan ay 17.23%. Okay. So, meron pa sa pang type ng volatilization gravimetry, meron tayong tinatawag na thermogravimetric analysis or TGA for short. So, dito yung timbang ang sample. Timbang ng sample habang tumataas yung timbang ng sample yung kinukuha habang tumataas yung temperature. No? So, meron itong tinatawag na thermogram. Dito sa thermogram, makikita yung graph ng percent mass as a function of time. So, through time kasi, nag-iibahin yung temperature. Tapos, titingnan ano yung mga compounds na nawawala kada step. So, yun yung pinaka-output nito. Tapos, each step loss corresponds to a volatilized component. Like, sa first step, ano yung water ba yung unang nag-volatilize? Carbon monoxide, tapos carbon dioxide. Or ano ba yung mga nade-decompose? Ganun. So, ito yung example ng thermogram. So, ito siya, no? So, meron tayo dito, no? Ito yung weight ng ating sample sa ating y-axis. Tapos, ito yung temperature through time, no? So, lahat yan nag-vary from 100 to 900 degrees Celsius. So, dito sa example natin ng thermogram. So, ito yung thermogram na analysis ng calcium oxalate, no? So, initially, calcium oxalate muna siya with water yan. Usually, sa moisture galing. So, at 100 degrees, no? Kung susundan natin yung at 100 degrees, ito yung initial amount niya. Then, kapag dumating ng 200 degrees, no? Bumababa yung amount. Tapos, nag-volatilize or nag-evaporate na yung water, no? At that stage. Kasi at 100 degrees, more than 100 degrees na yan. Then, so yun yung una. Then, ang matitirang product natin is ito, calcium oxalate na anhydrous na. Then, after that, so, at around dito, 300 degrees, no? Meron tayong anhydrous na calcium oxalate. Then, yun ulit, mag-i-increase ulit ng temperature, ganyan. Then, at around 400, bababa na naman yung mass ng ating sample. Tapos, doon, by that time, carbon monoxide naman yung nag-volatilize that time, no? Ito. So, tira tayo ng calcium carbonate naman ang natira sa atin. Ganun lang yung thermogravimetric analysis, no? Kada step, may mga nawawalang components. So, by this time, so, pag in-increase pa ulit yung temperature hanggang 700 to up to 800 degrees, yan. Na-decompose na yung carbon dioxide. Tapos, natira na lang is calcium oxide, no? So, ganun lang siya. Ito yung mga components. Usually, binibigay naman itong thermogram. Tapos, yung calculation sa inyo na pinapagawa, no? So, yan. Ito yung overall parang relationship na pwede nating isulat, no? When it comes sa TGA analysis ng calcium oxalate. From here, naging from hydrous calcium oxalate. So, na-decompose siya into calcium oxide, water, carbon monoxide, and carbon dioxide. So, naulit lang tong slide na to, no? So, punta ngayon tayo dito sa ating sample problem number 4. So, meron tayong sample na 26.23 mg of impure magnesium oxalate. So, hydrated siya. Tapos, is heated to constant weight at 1,200 degrees Celsius, leaving a residue that weighs 20.98 milligrams. Then sample, sabi dito, a sample of pure, kanina impure, no? A sample of pure magnesium oxalate hydrous was treated or when treated in the same fashion, so parehas init at 1,200 degrees Celsius, undergoes a 69.08% change in mass. So, titignan daw natin yung determine the weight percent by weight na magnesium oxalate, no? Hydrous. So, initial mass natin is 26.23 milligrams. Then, final mass natin kanina is 20.98 grams. Then, yung pure magnesium oxalate hydrous natin is 69.08% yung loss sa mass, no? So, titingnan natin sa solution, no? Una natin titingnan is, i-highlight ko na lang, no? Magnesium loss from the impure magnesium oxalate is 5.25. Walang unit. Lagyan natin ng unit. Milligram. No? Then, after that, so, i-relate na ngayon natin siya dun sa pure magnesium oxalate, no? So, ito siya. Medyo nakakalito na yung dikit-dikit kasi. So, tingin kayo dito sa green. So from the 5.25 milligrams loss sa impure magnesium oxalate, so, i-relate natin siya dun sa loss in mass nung pure magnesium oxalate, no? Which is 69.08 milligrams over 100 milligrams. So, that's the same as 69.08%. Tapos, i-divide natin yan sa 26.23 milligrams, which is yung amount ng initial sample natin, no? Tapos times 100. So, dapat ang makuha natin result dito ay ito, 29.0%. Yun yung magnesium oxalate hydrous. Ano ba ito sabihin? Monohydrate. Magnesium oxalate monohydrate. Yung pangalan, 29%. Okay. Dito naman sa sample number 5 natin, the thermogram shows, wala namang thermogram, pero sige. The thermogram shows the change in mass for a sample of calcium oxalate daw. So, ito yung example natin kanina. Okay. Monohydrate. Yan, monohydrate. So, the original sample weight was ito, 24.60 milligrams and was heated to room temperature to 1,000. So, from 25 degrees to 1,000 at a rate of, ito yung rate niya, 5 degrees per minute. The following changes in mass and corresponding temperature ranges were observed. So, kailangan mong i-note to isa-isa, no? So, loss of 4.72 milligrams from 400 to 500. So, ito yung una. I think ito yung una kasi at 100 to 250. Loss of 3.03 milligram. Ito yung number 1. Ito yung number 2. Tapos ito yung number 3. Loss of 7.41 milligram at 700 to 850. So, determine the identities of the volatilization products and the solid residue at each step of the decomposition. So, since calcium oxalate, so ito yun, no? Ito yung mga components na yun. So, isa-isayin nyo lang pero i-compute natin yung amount. Okay. So, meron tayong formula weight ng calcium oxalate monohydrate, ng water, carbon monoxide, and carbon dioxide. So, ito muna yung first part at 100 to 250 degrees Celsius. So, percent loss that time is 3.03 milligrams divided by the total weight of our original sample times 100. Ito yung percent loss. Yung percent loss, i-divide natin sa 100 grams of calcium oxalate monohydrate natin. Yan ay assumption na 100%, no? Tapos, multiply by the molecular weight. Ito, molecular weight ng ating calcium oxalate monohydrate. Tapos, nilagay pa dito yung formula weight ng water. Sabi dito yung relationship ay ito yung kanina sa thermogram, no? Actually, alam niyo na yan kasi pinakita naman kanina. So, ang residue is calcium oxalate. Tapos, ang volatilization product natin ay water. So, yun. So, dapat ang makuha nyo dito ay ito actually yan. 18.0 grams per mole. So, hanapin nyo ngayon dyan. Parang obvious naman, water yung volatilization product niya. So, mamimili lang naman kayo dyan kung water, carbon monoxide, tsaka carbon dioxide. So, since ang nakuha dito sa grams per mole nang nawala is 18.0 grams per mole. So, automatically, yun ay water, no? So, ganun yung pag-determine. Next, at 400 to 500 degrees Celsius. So, ganun ulit. Kunin lang yung percent loss. So, 4.72, saan yun galing? Ito, no? 4.72 milligrams divided by original number of sample times 100. Tapos, ganun ulit. 19.2 grams over 100 grams ng ating calcium oxalate monohydrate multiplied by the formula weight niya. Then, ang result dapat ay ito. 28 grams per mole. So, usually ganito sa problem, no? Bibigay naman itong mga to sa inyo. Tapos, i-partner nyo lang kung ano yung makuha nyo sa sagot. So, 28 grams per mole, 28 grams per mole, which is yung carbon monoxide, no? So, alam natin na dun sa part na yun, so, sa pangalawang stage na yun, calcium carbonate is our precipitate, ang tawag dito, solid residue. Ito, solid residue. Then, volatilization product natin in green. Yan, carbon monoxide. So, sa last item, ganun din naman ulit at 700 to 800 degrees Celsius. So, same yung pag-compute, no? Percent loss, which is 30.1%. So, sa dulo, no, medyo malaki na yung na-loss, no? Makikita rin sa thermogram, eh. No? Sobrang haba na sobrang laki na nung na-loss, no? Pagdating sa dulo. May effect yan, may kinalaman yan sa kanilang mga volatilization, sa evaporation. So, pagkakuha nyo ng percent loss, divide by 100 grams calcium oxide monohydrate times the formula weight. Tapos, ang makuha nyo dapat ito, 44 grams per mole. So, equivalent to the carbon dioxide. Then, ito yung solid residue natin is yung calcium oxide. Tapos, ang ating volatilization product ay carbon dioxide. Okay, hopefully nasundan nyo siya, no? Yung sa thermogram. Next natin, another example natin is ito. A sample is a mixture of ammonium carbonate, ammonium carbonate, sodium carbonate, tsaka sodium chloride daw. So, TGA indicates that a 0.0965 portion of the sample loses 0.0574 grams over a temperature of 50 to 75 degrees. Then, loses another 0.012 grams at 800 degrees. O yan, may dalawang step ka na din-describe dito. Calculate the weight percent of each component daw, no? So, may mixture ka ng tatlo. So, formula weight ng sodium carbonate given. Ito. Formula weight ng carbon dioxide given. And dapat yung sodium chloride din. Pero sige, makikita naman natin yun. So, ito yung balance equation. So, ammonium carbonate nag-decompose into ammonia, water, carbon dioxide. Tapos, sodium carbonate yung natira sa second stage. Wait lang, lagyan natin ng border. Ayan yan. So, ayan siya. So, sodium carbonate din nag-decompose sa sodium oxide at carbon dioxide. So, meron tayong 2 stages, no? Ito yung stage 1, ito yung stage 2. So, low temperature. Sa unang stage daw, nawalan ng 0.0574 grams of ammonium carbonate. Then, sa pangalawang stage, high temperature, loss of 0.0124 grams carbon dioxide from sodium carbonate. So, ito yung yan, kaya ako din-divide to. Ito yung stage 1. Ito yung stage 2. High temp. So, usually given naman yan. So, ang una nating alamin is yung grams ng dalawang component, no? Or yung timbang ng dalawang component na natira after that process. So we have here yung, wait lang, lumit yung screen pala. Grams ng sodium carbonate. So, simula tayo dun sa mass nung na wala dun sa high temp, which is 0.0124, multiplied by the molar mass of our carbon dioxide. This relationship ng molar relationship or molar ratio ng carbon dioxide to sodium carbonate, 1:1 lang naman. Then molar mass ng sodium carbonate. So makaka-cancel yung itong mga to. Yan, cancel yan, cancel yan, cancel to, cancel din to. Okay? Then dapat ang makuha niya na mass ay 0.0298 grams of sodium carbonate. Then pagdating naman dito sa grams ng sodium chloride, so we have the total mass minus, so hindi pa alam, total mass ng sodium carbonate minus grams ng, or total mass ng sample minus mass ng sodium carbonate minus mass ng ammonium carbonate. So ito yan, 0.0965, ito yan, okay, minus 0.0298 yung nakuha dito, minus 0.0574 grams. So, ito yung 0.0574. So, overall, yung grams ng sodium chloride na natira is 0.0093 grams. Sobrang light na nun, no? Then, we calculate yung percent weight ng dalawang component na ito. So, 0.00 for sodium chloride, 0.0093 natira sa kanya, divided by 0.0965, which is yung sample natin, no? Times 100, kuha natin 9.64. Next component is sodium carbonate. So we have here 0.0298 divided by total number of sample or amount of sample times 100. You have 30.9%. And then lastly, yung ating original sample, which is 0.0574 over, given na itong dalawang to, no? Over 0.0965 times 100, we have 59.5. Tapos pag tinotal nyo yan, more or less likely, no? Nasa 100%. Okay? So, ganyan yung sa TGA analysis. Okay. Next natin is precipitation gravimetry. So, simple lang to. So, yung analyte daw is converted to a precipitate. Tapos, titimbangin yung precipitate. So, we have here analysis of sodium chloride in seawater. So, we have here no initial reaction natin, which is sodium chloride plus silver nitrate. So, silver nitrate yung ginagamit for precipitation of our silver chloride. Tapos, byproduct na sodium nitrate. So, dito makikita natin, no? Analyte natin is sodium chloride, which is yung gusto natin malaman. Tapos, pinapa-precipitate natin using silver nitrate. Tinatawag natin siyang precipitating agent. Then, ang ating precipitate ay white, which is silver chloride. Yun yung characteristics niya. So, tinitimbang natin si silver chloride. Pero, ang gusto nating malaman is si sodium chloride. So, yung common sa kanila is yung chlorine atom, no? So, yung stoichiometry between the analyte tsaka yung precipitate, important, no? Stoichiometry is important sa part na to. Okay? So, ando ko na ulit. Okay. So, ito yung workflow, no? Or steps sa precipitation gravimetry. First step, precipitation, syempre. Tapos, yung precipitate, dina-digest. Precipitate, tapos precipitation, tapos digestion. Then, after digestion, fini-filter yung resulta ng digestion na yun. Tapos, washing. After washing, so, dry siya, ini-ignite. Tapos, siya titimbangin. No? So, every step may pwedeng ma-introduce siya ng error. So, dapat controlled talaga yung processes nito, no? Para ma-avoid yung loss ng precipitate or hindi ma-contaminate yung sample natin. So, isa-isay natin yung steps. So, step 1 is precipitation and it requires, requires supersaturation. Meaning, temporarily, mas mataas ang concentration kaysa sa solubility, no? Sabi dito, supersaturated solution contains more than the maximum amount of solute that is capable of being dissolved at a given temperature. So, from supersaturation, you get nucleation na tinatawag. Red natin siya. Nucleation, tinatawag. Nag-block ko siya. Or yan yung formation of tiny nuclei doon sa ating precipitate. And we have particle growth. So, as is naman na yung particle growth. So, goal natin is not too many tiny particles. Hindi masyado maraming nucleation na mangyari. We prefer mas konti, pero mas malalaking particles, no? So, okay yung tiny particles, pero ito, mas kailangan natin particle growth para mas madali yung filtration, no? Easy filtration. Kasi nga, pinifilter natin, no? Sa step. So, dito sa ayun, na-explain ko na rin naman. Dito, dinify lang dito sa next slide na to. No? Nucleation process in which a minimum number of atoms or ions or molecules join together to produce a stable solid. Yun yung tiny particles. No? Then particle growth, ito naman yung process in which yung nuclei nagko-combine to form larger particles. So, binubuo ng nuclei yung ating sa particle growth para magkaroon ng particle growth. So, ito lang yung visual representation. So, nucleation, combination of atoms, ions, or etc. So, meron tayong ganito. Ipoproduce siya ng tiny particles or nuclei. Pwede siyang induce. Gumagamit tayo ng catalyst. Parang ganun. So, ganyan yung magiging form niya. Tapos, kapag nag-combine itong mga to, nagiging ganito siya. Yung particle growth. Diyan nangyayari yung particle growth. No? Visualization lang itong mga to. So, dito sabi dito, small particles. Paano nabubuo ang small particles? Kapag mabilis ang nucleation kumpara sa rate of particle growth. Okay? Yun ang nabubuo kapag mas mataas ang nucleation. Pag reverse naman, large particles ang nabubuo kapag mabilis ang rate of particle growth kumpara sa nucleation. Okay? Precipitating agent naman, so may mga specific reagent, no, na nagre-react lang sa ating analyte, no. Ito yung ginagamit natin para i-convert yung ating analyte into a precipitate. So we have specific reagents na nagre-react lang sa single species. So example ito dimethyl glyoxime for analysis of nickel 2+. So yan, napaka-specific niyan. So, we have naman selective reagents. So, keyword natin dito is specific at selective reagents. So, ito namang selective reagents react with limited number of species. Like silver nitrate for analysis of halides. Halides, we have chlorine, iodine, bromine. So, yun. Sila yung mga halides natin, no? So, nakalagay dito, should react with the analyte to give a product that is, ano yung mga target na characteristics ng precipitate. Known ang composition, very insoluble kasi nga precipitate, easy to filter and pure, no? So, yun yung mga target characteristics ng ating precipitate. So, important na makapag-decide tayo kung specific reagent ang gagamitin or selective reagent. So, priorities natin, syempre number top 2 is known composition at very insoluble. So i-isolate naman natin yung dalawa. So, ito yung ideal precipitate, no? Very pure. Goal is magkaroon ng very pure tsaka easy to filter. So, makikita natin yung relationship ng very pure precipitate tsaka easy to filter. May connection pa rin sa type ng particle, no? Kapag maraming small particles, alam natin na pure yan, high surface area. Kapag alam naman natin na konti lang pero malalaki yung particles, madaling i-filter, no? Tapos, low yung surface area ng ating precipitate, no? May kanya-kanya silang pros and cons. Pwede natin siyang relate ngayon sa purity, no? Kapag low yung surface area, mas maraming exposure sa low surface area exposed for impurities. Kumbaga, mas less yung impurity kasi nga mababa yung surface area for konti yung kakapitan ng mga impurities natin. So, alam natin na high pure yung ating small particles kapag maraming small particles. Then, kapag naman, ito, yung easy to filter, does not clog filter paper daw, no? Hindi siya naka-clog. So, yun nga, easy to filter siya. So, ang gusto natin is, ito, few large particles para dun sa ating precipitation gravimetry. So, meron pang isang factor na naglalaro din dyan, which is yung particle size na naaapektuhan ng maraming factors, no? Such variables ay temperature, rate of mixing of reactant, solubility, no? Reactant concentration, tsaka pH, no? Nadaanan natin yung iba dyan, no? So, such variables are related to a single solution property called, ito yung mga property na sinasabi, supersaturation ratio, von Weyman ratio, and relative supersaturation. So, di ka na yun iisa-isayin, no? Pero, yan. I-search nyo na lang siya sa ating reference. Hindi naman siya more, critical. So, particle size of precipitate is inversely proportional daw sa kanyang relative supersaturation. So, we have here yung sa third point natin, no? Relative supersaturation. Ito yung formula ng relative supersaturation wherein Q minus S over S yung formula. Yung Q is concentration of mixed reagents before precipitation occurs minus yung S, which is yung solubility ng precipitate at equilibrium. So, sabi is, particle size is inversely proportional sa relative supersaturation. So, particle size, pag nag-increase, bababa ang relative supersaturation. Basta opposite sila. Okay? So, ang goal natin is mapababa yung relative supersaturation. Kasi nga, gusto natin ng mataas na particle size. Malaking particles, no? So, ano yung mga pwedeng gawin, no? Para mapataas yung solubility. So, pag pinataas natin yung solubility, ano mangyayari ngayon? Bababa yung relative supersaturation. So, to increase solubility, so, kailangan natin taasan yung temperature, tapos kailangan natin mababang pH, no? Para naman pababa natin yung concentration, or yung Q, which is makakapagpababa din ng ating relative supersaturation, kailangan natin precipitation using dilute solutions daw, hindi concentrated, no? So, yun nga, kasi nga, concentration yung inaano natin, kinokontrol natin. Slow addition of precipitating agent, mabagal lang, hindi mabilis, kasi nga, yung rate, no, ng particle group, yung kailangan natin i-prioritize. So, constant steering, so, more on sa mechanical, during addition of precipitating agent, and precipitation by homogeneous precipitation, no? So, ano yung homogeneous precipitation? Ito yung process in which a precipitate is formed by slow generation of precipitating reagent throughout the solution. Mabagal daw yung generation ng precipitating agent. So, titingin tayo dito sa example ng we have here, no, hydroxides precipitate as precipitating agent, tapos reagent natin urea. So, ito yung example na equation, tapos ito yung mga analyte na tinatarget natin dyan. Aluminum, gallium, thorium, bismuth, iron, tsaka tin. No? So, dito, tingin tayo dito sa unang equation, no? So, we have here, no, aluminum hydroxide solution, no? Precipitate formed by the direct addition of ammonia. Makikita mo agad na ang dami ng precipitate, no? Pero kapag ito naman, precipitate formed using homogeneous production of hydroxide, makikita nyo na kaunti lang yung precipitate, no? So, meron dito direct addition ng ammonia. Tapos, homogeneous production of hydroxide. Parang uniform production siya. Sabi dito, despite application of the different techniques, many precipitate do not give a favorable relative supersaturation. So, it is impossible to yield an ideal precipitate kasi nga ideal lang, guys. Tandaan nyo yung ideal. Di yan talaga real. Hindi yan yung reality, no? Kapag nag-experiment kayo. Without passing through the colloidal state. Kasi nga makikita nyo dito, no? Napaka-clunky niya. Although, hindi siya yung large particles na gusto natin, no? Parang colloidal yung ano niya. Colloidal yung itsura niya, no? So, hindi yan yung gusto natin din at the same time. So, kailangan natin dumaan dun sa phase na yun para makuha natin kahit pa paano, no? Yung gusto natin precipitate. So, sabi dito, colloid formation. So, sa colloid formation, nagre-range yung size ng ating colloid formation to 1 to 100 nanometers. So, usually, yung colloidal suspensions natin, merong mga tiny particles, pero na hindi natin nakikita. Tapos, nagtitend yun to stay in the solution. Hindi natin alam kung hanggang kailan sila nag-stay dun. Tapos, mahirap siyang i-filter, no? Kasi nga, tiny particles siya, hindi natin siya nakikita. So, ano yung ginagawa natin? So, ini-introduce natin itong process ng coagulation or agglomeration. Wherein, ito yung pinagkukumbine-combine natin yung mga colloidal particles para mag-form ng larger particles, which is yung gusto natin. So, we have different types of precipitate. So, makikita din natin dito, no? Types of precipitate, we have gelatinous precipitate, curdy, crystalline. Hindi ko sure kung nadaanan nyo to sa basic chem experiments, you know, wherein you describe anong precipitate yung na-form upon doing yung precipitation experiments, no? So, gelatinous, ito naman coagulated emulsoid tawag sa kanya. Tapos, water loving. Example niyan is hydroxides, no? Ito natandaan nyo, hydroxides, gelatinous. Ito naman, so emulsion siya, no? Ito naman suspension, coagulated suspensoid, curdy. Ang example niya is, so water heating siya, so opposite sila ni gelatinous. Example niya is halides. So, silver chloride. So, yun, yung examples. Tapos we have crystalline precipitates. Ito, fine particles. Example niya is sulfates. Tapos meron tayong tinatawag dito na peptization. Ito yung process in which yung coagulated colloids natin is bumabalik sa ano niya, dispersed state niya. Kumakalat siya ulit, no? So, to discuss with you yung mechanism ng precipitation. So, perhaps sa center, so imagine itong figure na to. Sa center, ano yung silver chloride particle natin. And then, we know na yung precipitating agent natin, no? Ito. Yan yung excess reagent natin, no? Sobrang agent natin yan para ma-precipitate natin si silver chloride. Since siya yung excess reagent natin, nagpo-form siya ng tinatawag natin na primary absorbed layer at saka secondary absorbed layer or tinatawag na counter ion layer. So, para ma-visualize din natin siya. So, si primary absorption layer, tandaan nyo adsorption, sa surface lang siya nag-adhere. So, ito yung mga positive ions natin, no? Then, sa secondary absorption layer, compose natin ito ng mga negative ions natin, no? So, yun yung parang microscopic view ng ating precipitate. So, para sa mga notation naman, may ba yan? So, meron tayo dito format natin sinusunod para sa ito, notation na tinatawag. So, ito yan. So, ang notation natin, gagamit tayo ng colons dito, no? So, precipitate, which is ito, sa example natin, sodium chloride, silver chloride. Tapos, isang colon, then idudugtong natin yung primary adsorption layer natin. Dapat ADN. Primary adsorption layer natin, which is yung positive ions natin, no? Which is yung silver ions natin. Then, dalawang colon magkasunod. Susunod natin yung ating secondary adsorption layer. So, adsorption yan. Adsorption. Or yung counter ion natin, no? So, alam natin yung electric double layer natin is negatively charged. ganun lang siya. Then, pwede ko sabihin dito, no? So, electric double layer natin. So, ito daw yung nag-exert na electrostatic repulsive force that prevents the particles from colliding or adhering to each other. So, ito yung nagpo-promote ng coagulation, no? Or nagpo-form ng tiny particles sa ating colloids para hindi sila mag-clump sa isa't isa. So, ito yung factor na yun. So, electric double layer. So, dito naman, pag tinignan natin yung sodium chloride as excess reagent natin, ito. So, baliktad naman, no? Yung ating primary absorption layer natin is negatively charged naman dito sa part na to. Tapos, since siya yung primary, kasi nga, di ba, ang pinapaprecipitate natin is si silver chloride. So, kapag ang excess natin is sodium chloride, baliktad naman yung negatively charged naman ang ating primary adsorption layer. Tapos, yung secondary adsorption layer naman natin is si sodium, no? So, dito tingnan natin sa red box. The composition of the primary and secondary layer will depend on the excess reagent, no? Titingnan natin mabuti kung ano yung excess reagent. Usually, minimension naman yun sa ating problem, no? So, nakadepende kung ano yung excess. Tapos kung ano yung bilayer na mabubuo dyan. Kung dito, kanina, excess natin is yung silver nitrate, no? So, nabubuo siya ng negatively charged na electric double layer. Whereas, dito naman, if excess natin is sodium chloride, positive naman yung electric double layer niya, positively charged. So, tandaan nyo na, important yung function ng ating electric double layer. Kasi sila nagpo-promote ng coagulation, which is kailangan natin for our filtration, no? So, yun nga, dito yung na-highlight sa slide na to, no? Paano ba napo-promote yung coagulation by the electric double layer? So, small volume of electric double layer, ibig sabihin, less yung repulsive forces. So, merong attraction na magaganap dun sa ating mga colloidal particles. Whereas, kapag large naman yung volume ng ating electric double layer, ibig sabihin, maraming repulsive forces. Makikita nyo, no? Yung repulsive forces seems malaki compared dito sa kapag mababa yung volume. So, makikita nyo yung dito, difference ito, tsaka difference ito. Okay. So, the more compact the electric double layer is, the more tendency yung coagulation. So, in this way, ma-avoid natin yung large excess precipitant, ma-add natin electrolyte solution, and we can use heat at constant stirring para ma-promote yung coagulation. Alright. Yun yung step 1, no? Precipitation. So, sa step 2 naman, ina-allow natin yung sa digestion, which is step 2 natin, ina-allow natin dito sa digestion yung precipitate na mag-stand in the presence of a solution from which it was precipitated. So, parang inahalo ulit natin siya dun sa ating precipitating agent. So, this involves the solution of small particles and reprecipitation of larger ones. So, parang inuulit lang yung process kahit na may precipitate na tayo nabuo. Tapos, sa pag-digest, napo-force natin yung small colloidal particles to combine para mas malaki pa yung particles na mabuo nila. So, tinatawag na ito na Ostwald ripening. Then, after that, sa step 3 naman, filtration naman tayo. So, filtration, basically, we separate the precipitate from the mother liquor na tinatawag. So, yung pag-choose ng ating filtration medium nakadepende sa precipitate tsaka sa temperature nung temperature na gagawin natin sa ating drying stage tsaka sa ignition stage, no? So, konting definition lang dito. Si mother liquor in yung solution in which the precipitate was formed. Tapos, supernatant solution, ito yung na-remain after na tanggal na natin yung precipitate. So, ito yung dalawang type ng filtration medium. Nakadepende nga sa temperature sa gagamitin natin for drying tsaka ignition. So, kapag filter paper, ito siya, yung Wattman filter paper. Very simple lang yan siguro, mga room temperature. Pwede natin gawin yung filtration using filter paper. Tapos may iba't ibang types ng filter paper, no? Nakadepende yan dun sa kanyang nakadepende kung anong type ng precipitate yung i-filter natin, no? Kung gusto din ba natin ng fast filtration, medium to fast, medium, slow, or ash. So, iba-iba yan. Nakadepende rin yun sa type ng precipitate, as I mentioned. So, dati isa-isahin yung type ng ng filter paper, no? Then, meron naman tayo for high temperature. Meron tayong tinatawag na crucible or filtering crucible. So, filtering crucible, magre-range yan. Pwede gamitin yan at up to 1,150 degrees Celsius. Meron din tayong ganito, fluted glass crucible or sintered glass. Ito naman less than 400 degrees. Nonetheless, high temperature pa din. No? So, yung fluted glass, fine porous glass siya through which gas or liquid may pass. No? So, usually ginagamit yun sa vacuum filtration. Tapos, ito naman gouge or porcelain, common yun, porcelain crucible. Ito naman ito may perforated base. Makikita nyo, no? Butas-butas yung ilalim. Tapos, dun dadaan yung ating filtration mechanism. Then, after filtration, we do washing then. So, dito lang naman tinatanggal lang natin yung traces ng supernatant solution. Baka kasi may natira pa, no? Para ma-avoid yung peptization, ano yung peptization kanina, no? Nabanggit ko na yun. Kailangan di tayo gagamit ng water sa washing solution natin. Baka kasi soluble yung sa water pala yung solution natin. Use dilute volatile electrolytes such as citric acid, ammonium nitrate, at tsaka dilute acetic acid. Tapos, kailangan din natin i-check yung presence ng precipitating agent sa ating filtrate. So, yun. After that, after filtering, after washing, punta na tayo sa drying stage or ignition. So, drying naman, simply pinapainit lang natin yung precipitate para matanggal yung excess moisture, tsaka yung mga na-absorb na electrolyte from the washing stage, no? So, we have types of water dito na naka-highlight, no? Meron tayong essential water, tsaka non-essential water. So, sa essential water, dito yung water of constitution, dito yung mga sinabi ko sa inyo, no? Example nito, calcium hydroxide. So, kasama yun sa kanya talaga, di yan tatanggal. Meron tayong water of crystallization. So, example naman ito, copper sulfate pentahydrate. Kasama siya, pero, alam mo yun, pag natanggal mo siya sa kanyang structure, nagki-crystallize na yung metal, no? Or kung ano man yung pinapa-crystallize. So, we have naman dito sa kabila, non-essential waters. We have occluded water, adsorbed water, tsaka sorbed water. So, ano kaya yun? Mamaya, hindi na pala. So, dito sa drying tsaka sa ignition, talagang pinapainit yung sample, no? At as high as 500 degrees, 200 degrees, depende nga sa ating unang-una kung anong filtering device or mechanism yung ginagawa natin, ano yung type na precipitate, kung kailangan ba natin i-dry ng ganun kataas para makuha natin yung pure form ng ating precipitate. So, yun. So, ito lang pinapakita lang sa mga picture, no? Yung drying or ignition part. So, makikita nyo nasa crucible, tapos merong gauze, patong sa gauze yung crucible, tapos hinihit lang directly. Tapos meron naman, usually ganito siya, naka-iron ring, tapos naka-crucible pa din, tapos may apoy yan dito. Usually ganyan siya. Tapos, meron naman hindi siya oven May tawag dito, nakalimutan ko yung tawag. Para siyang ganyan, high temp na oven siya. So, pinapasok dyan yung sample sa crucible. Then, sobrang init yan sa loob. Parang pugon yan, ganyan. Tapos, yan. Ginagawa yun usually sa calcination processes, no? So, ito, may mga example dito. Makikita nyo dito yung complex, no? Meron siyang water of crystallization sa kanya. Tapos natanggal na after 900 degrees Celsius. So we also have this one. Sa iron naman, then iron oxide na natara. Yung calcium oxide, ito yung calcination, calcium sulfate. Calcination na tinatawag. No? Nag-add tayo ng sulfate ions. Through heating lang yun. Wala kang in-add na something. So, after some time, after na ng drying at saka ignition, andit dun parang tayo magtitimbang, no? So, before weighing, precipitate should be allowed to cool in the desiccator to keep it from absorbing moisture. Baka kasi mag-absorb na naman. So, kailangan na naman mag-dry. Tapos, we do constant weighing, no? Heating and cooling done repeatedly until 3 successive weights agree to within 0.3 milligram. So, paulit-ulit ka mag-weigh hanggang magkaroon ka ng constant reading up to 0.3 milligram yung accuracy mo. So, nakalagay dito na paulit-ulit siya. Tapos may memes pa dito. Gravimetry is very tedious daw. So, tedious talaga siya. Pero, very accurate naman. So, ano mangyayari dun sa mga contaminant, no? So, ito naman yung mga contaminant na pwede ma-introduce or ma-encounter during gravimetric analysis. So, we have co-precipitation contaminant. So, ito yung na-introduce during the precipitation pa lang mismo, no? Sa stage 1. Tapos, meron tayong post-precipitation or second precipitate na na-form or yun yung contaminant, no? While the precipitate is in contact with the mother decor. So, that's the two classification. So, then sa co-precipitation, we have inclusion, occlusion, tsaka surface absorption. Yun yung kaninang na mentioned kanina sa non-essential water, no? So, po isa-isa yun yan. Ayan. So, sa co-precipitation, isa-isa natin, no? Sa inclusion, impurity replaces an ion in the crystal lattice. So, ito yung original na crystal lattice mo. So, ito yung co-precipitant mo. So, pinalitan niya yung isang positive ion sa gitna. So, supposed to be may positive ion dyan. So, pumasok siya dun, tinanggal niya yung nasa crystal lattice. Then, occlusion naman, sabi dito, impurity is trapped within the pocket of the growing crystals. So, we have here the growing crystal, makikita nyo. Then, may pumasok sa gitna. Na-trap siya dun sa ating layer, no? So, that's occlusion, pumasok sa gitna. So, inclusion, na-include siya dun sa lattice. Occlusion, na-trap siya sa gitna. Pero wala siyang ni-replace na ions. Then, we have adsorption naman. Then, absorption dun sa surface ng ating counter-ion layer. Dumidikit yung ating impurity, no? Somehow, nakakapag-attract pa din yung ating secondary absorption layer, no? So, okay, yun siya. Sa surface siya nag-absorb. So, it can be minimized daw. Yung inclusion, pwede ma-minimize by reprecipitation. So, tatanggalin lang ulit siya doon. Then, occlusion naman, kailangan gawin ang digestion ulit at reprecipitation. Then, adsorption, kailangan mag-digest at saka mag-washing, no? Para matanggal dun sa surface ng ating excess reagent or secondary bilayer. Secondary adsorption layer. Okay, hopefully, no? Nagigets nyo na yung overall concept ng gravimetry. So, review lang tayo konti dito. True or false, few large particles are preferred in gravimetry. Yun nga, true yan kasi large particles are easy to filter and less surface area are exposed to impurities. So, sabi dito, few large particles are produced if low relative supersaturation is achieved, no? Yun yung isa sa mga concepts kanina. Bakit daw low yung RS natin? Kasi particle size of precipitate is inversely proportional to the relative supersaturation or RS. So, pag gusto natin mas malaki yung particles, kailangan natin mababa na RS. So, review lang ito ng mga nadaanan natin. So, number 2, concentrated precipitant is added rapidly. So, mapoproduce kaya ang large particles. So, concentration solution leads to high relative supersaturation. So, kapag mataas ang RS, so false siya, no? Hindi tayo makakapag dapat hindi tayo makapag-form ng large particles kapag rapid yung addition natin ng precipitant. Number 3, the rate of nucleation exceeds particle growth. Large particles ba mabubuo kapag ganito? So, tingnan natin, sagot. So, for large particles, the rate of particle growth should be greater than the rate of nucleation. So, that is false. No? So, okay. So, meron tayong review dito ulit. Given natin excess, so keyword natin, no? May excess tayo na potassium bromide added to our silver nitrate solution. So, may dalawang tanong dito. What type of precipitate is formed? What is the composition of the electric double layer? So, we have here the equation, no? Ang ating precipitate ay silver bromide. May identify ba? Hindi pa na. Ito na pala. So, ang ating precipitate ay itong solid, syempre, nabuo solid. And then, ito. What is the composition of the electric double layer? So, ano pala muna? Ano muna yung characteristics ng ating precipitate? So, since silver bromide siya, dito siya kabilang sa halides, no? Kasi may bromine. So, curly siya. Okay? Tapos, what is the composition of the electric double layer? So, since may excess KBr tayo, so, ito yung notation natin, no? So, precipitate, colon, primary natin, si bromine, since, yun nga, nandun siya sa excess. Yung excess, no? Doon tayo magpo-focus sa primary. So, yun yung negative. Then, we have the secondary adsorbed layer, which is the potassium. So, titingin lang tayo lagi sa ating kung ano yung excess natin, no? So, yun yung primary adsorption layer natin is yung bromine. Counter ion natin is si potassium. Okay? Okay na to. Naulit na to. So, ito naman. Another example. Excess naman natin is si ferric chloride solution added to sodium hydroxide, no? Ferric chloride, yung excess, added to sodium hydroxide. So, ito yung ating equation. So, ang ating precipitate ay si iron G hydroxide, no? Yan. Then, anong niya? Characteristic na, since hydroxide siya, so, siya ay gelatinous. Okay? So, ito na. What is the composition of our electric double layer? So, since ang excess natin is si iron trichloride natin, so, ang notation natin is yung precipitate, tapos, yan, ang ating iron 3 plus ion, ang ating primary adsorption layer, tapos chlorine natin ang counter ion layer natin or secondary adsorption layer natin. Okay? Okay, para lang mas malinawan kayo, no? Kung paano dinedecide si primary adsorption layer at secondary adsorption layer. So, tandaan nyo muna, tignan nyo muna si precipitate nyo. Ano yung structure ni precipitate nyo? Silver bromide, no? Tapos, ano yung excess reagent natin? KBr. Ano yung common sa kanilang dalawa? Si bromine. So, siya yung nasa ating primary adsorbed layer. Tapos, yung kabila, yung sumunod, si potassium, siya yung secondary or counter ion natin. Okay? So, kung babalik tayo dun sa kanina example natin, so, bakit ito siya? So, ano ulit precipitate natin? Iron hydroxide, no? Iron 3 hydroxide. So, ang excess reagent natin is si iron chloride. So, anong common sa kanila? Si iron, no? So, si iron ang ating primary adsorption layer natin. Tapos, yung kabila, si chlorine naman yung counter ion. Okay? Just to ano lang, para lang hindi kayo malito. Okay. Okay, nagkaroon ako ng error. Hindi na-record yung audio dito sa part na to. mula dito sa supernova. So, nadaanan lang natin siya, okay? So, mabilis na naman yung explanation ko dito. So, mas maikli pa yung video. So, dito, meron tayo ng mixture na dalawang solution nito, no? Barium, tsaka magnesium, tsaka sulfate. Actually, source ng barium, tsaka source ng sulfate, okay? So, meron tayong experiment 1, 2, and 3. So, sa bawat situation dito, describe yung precipitate. Tapos, i-explain natin bakit ganun yung naging precipitate, no? So, magagamit na ako ng highlight dito. So, sa experiment 1, meron tayong equal volume ng na 3.5 molars, no? So, nilagay ko dito yung Q, kung naalala nyo sa ating solubility product constant, no? Reaction quotient. So, directly related siya sa concentration ng barium at sulfate, no? At alam natin na kapag ang Q ay greater than KSP, meron tayong supersaturated solution. At kapag meron tayong supersaturated solution, alam natin na yung rate of nucleation ay mataas, no? Kasi mataas yung concentration. So, kaya sinabi dito, yung kanyang precipitate ay gelatinous. Okay? Kasi sobrang, parang isang bagsak na mabilis na forming precipitate. Whereas, experiment 2, meron tayo dito 1.5 molars na lang. So, medyo mababa, no? Kumpara dun sa experiment 1. Kaya, dinescribe dito yung precipitate as curdy. Hindi na siya ganun, though malalaki pa rin yung particles, no? Pero hindi na siya ganun kataas. So, yung rate of nucleation dito is slightly lower than the first experiment, no? Tapos, parang may unti-unti na nakikita ang particle size. So, go lowering the concentration. Tapos, sa last experiment, mas lower pa yung concentration, 0.5 millimolar, no? So, dito, sinabi dito na yung precipitate niya ay nagkaroon ng crystallization, no? Tapos, medyo malaki na yung kanyang size. So, dito na yung pwede natin i-relate dito na yung concentration is super baba na. Kaya, yung particles na nabubuo ay malalaki na, no? Very dilute na. Kaya yung Q ay siguro slightly above na lang siya sa KSP. So, lower na yung saturation. Tapos, crystal growth na yung nado-dominate dun sa reaction. So, itong slide na to more on sa concentration, no? Tsaka yung effect nito sa precipitate. So, skip ko to kasi dito yung sagot sa slide na to. So, sabi dito sa bawat precipitate dito sa ABCDE, identify lang na yung pH range where precipitate has its lowest solubility. So, in general, no, guys, yung mga precipitates sa mga basic, not basic, kung saan higher yung pH, no, dun siya magkakaroon ng lowest solubility, no? Bakit kaya ganun? Kasi, di ba, pag low solubility, ibig sabihin, less na yung hindi na siya napoprotonate, no? Kumbaga, yung majority ng species niya, na-protonate na dun sa lower pH, no? Kasi mataas yung concentration ng H+. Wherein, sa higher pH, low yung concentration ng H+. So, less yung napoprotonate. So, less soluble, no? Sa higher pH. So, dito sa bawat species, may kanya-kanya silang ladder diagram, no? Kung naalala niyo yung ladder diagram, naka-display yung pKa dun, which corresponds din sa pH actually. So, may iba-iba tayong system dito. So, una, sa carbonate system natin, kung mapapansin nyo, no? At lower na pH na, lower than 10.3, napoprotonate pa yung carbonate natin. Pero higher than that, carbonate na lang yung natitira. So, dyan yung lowest solubility. So, at pH 10.3, greater than 10.3, yun yung lowest solubility for carbonate system. Then, for sulfide system naman, so ito yun. So, at pH 13.9, lower than 13.9, so, napoprotonate pa hanggang H2S yung ating sulfide ion. Whereas higher than that, alone na lang siya, no? So, dito yung lowest point of solubility niya. Okay, so yung trend is ganun lang sa kanila. Nagkakaiba-iba lang ng pH kasi iba-iba sila ng ladder diagram. Kumbaga iba-iba yung characteristics ng kanilang pKa, no? So sa oxalate naman, oxalate system natin. So papansin nyo at pH 4.3, around 4.3, no? Lower than that, protonate pa yung ating oxalate ion, pero higher than 4.3, alone na siya, no? So ito na yung lowest point of solubility niya, 4.3. O, tignan nyo naman dito sa ating sulfate system. pH 2, lower than pH 2, alam natin na strongly protonated yung sulfate natin dyan, no? Tapos higher than 2, hindi na siya protonated, no? Alone na siya. So, yan, makikita nyo dito. Alam natin na acidic pa rin siya. So, hindi ko sinabi kanina na sa basic, na binawi ko yung sinabi ko na basic. Hindi lang siya necessarily basic. Nakadepende, no? Kung saan siya lessly protonated na. Doon yung lowest solubility. So, dito sa sulfate, above pH 2, no? So, pH 2. Then lastly, sa chromate natin, chromate system natin, at pH 6.5 greater than 6.5, doon yung chromate nagiging less soluble. Tapos, sa gravimetric factor naman, ayan, simple lang yung gravimetric factor. So, pinakonvert ang grams of compound into grams of single element. So, yung shortcut niya, ito, ayan, nabura. Ito yun, shortcut niya. So, pinorek ko pa ito sa previous recording, no? So, formula weight ng analyte over formula weight ng precipitate times mole of analyte over mole of precipitate. So, sa given dito, example natin, we have 1 gram of iron oxide. So, ito yung formula weight ng analyte. Ito yung formula weight ng precipitate. So, kinumbine na lang dito. So, part na yan. Tapos, ito yung moles ng analyte, moles ng precipitate. So, ito yung part na yan. Okay? Tapos, dito yung activity. Dito naputol yung recording, no? So, we have here, sinamarize ko ulit dito yung formula. So, iniba ko lang yung terms kasi sa problem, nakalagay SOT tsaka weight. Weigh. So, sa letter A, so, ang main player dito is yung number of moles. So, 1:1 lang naman sila, no? Si sulfite tsaka si sulfate, no? So, ang GF natin or gravimetric factor natin dyan is formula weight of sulfide over formula weight of barium sulfate. Ito naman sa letter B, no, may oxidation reaction na naganap dyan. So si iron nag-oxidize into iron 2, iron 3, no, iron 2 nag-oxidize iron 3. So 4/6 yung stoichiometric factor niya, pero pag nilowest term natin 2/3 na lang yan. So ang gravimetric factor natin ay ito. So, formula weight ng iron 3, Fe3O4 over formula weight ng Fe2O3 times 2/3. Okay? Then, sa C, more on moles lang yan. Direct comparison ng moles. Yung ating analyte ay iron. Then, nagre-react siya sa 2 moles ng iron galing dito sa Fe2O3. So, ang GF natin ay ito lang. Then, sa letter D, P2O5, so, ito lang siya. 1:1 lang din siya. Although, 2 moles nandito, P2O5, 2 moles ng phosphorus. Dito rin sa Mg2P2O7, 2 moles din ng P. So, parang 2/2 lang yan. So, 1. So, hindi na nilagay dito yung number. And then, dito naman sa last natin, ay sa letter D naman. So, mole din yan. So, we have 4 moles of bromine here. Tapos dito, 2. So, we will have a GF of like this. Formula weight ng borax. Actually, borax yan. Pagiging ko dito borax. Borax. Haba kasi. So, ito ay formula weight ng B2O3 times 1 mole ng borax. Kailangan ng 2 moles ng B2O3 para mabalance yun. So, 1 mole of 1/2. So, sa letter F, molybdenum sulfide, okay, tsaka barium sulfate. So, we have here, parang 1 mole, wait lang, highlight natin na, meron tayo 1 mole ng molybdenum sulfide, kailangan ng 3 moles ng barium sulfate, no? Kasi dito may 1 lang tayo. Highlight muna natin, may 3 tayo dito, may 1. So, kailangan natin ng 3 moles ng barium sulfate para mabalance out si molybdenum sulfide. So, ang gravimetric factor natin ay formula weight ng MOS3 over formula weight ng barium sulfate times 1 over 3. Okay? Plus, so dito, puro moles na yun. Hindi pa pala last kasi mayroon pang H. So, meron tayo dito lead. Yan, lead. Something organic. Yung lead. Tapos, lead ethylene. Lead ethylene. Parang yan. Okay. Tapos dito ay lead chromate. So, yan. 1:1 lang kasi alam niyo naman na 1 mole lang ng lead yun nandito. 1:1 lang yan. So, as is lang yan. GF natin is formula weight ng lead C2H4 over formula weight ng lead chromate. Okay? So, yung value niyan, check nyo na lang. Last. Dito na lang. So, last natin is H. So, we have aluminum tsaka aluminum oxide. Oh. We have 1 mole aluminum dito and 2 moles aluminum oxide. So, ang GF natin dyan ay dahil pala nang ginawa ko. Formula weight ng aluminum, formula weight ng 3. Then, ang factor ay so, kailangan ng 2 moles ng aluminum para sa 1 mole ng aluminum oxide. And hopefully, nag-gusto nyo sa gravimetric factor, no? Next problem. So, sunod-sunod na hanggang matapos na itong problem. So, treatment of 0.25 gram sample of impure KCl with an excess of silver nitrate resulted in the formation of 0.2912 grams of silver chloride. Calculate the percentage of KCl in the sample. So, example to na precipitation gravimetry, no? So, given natin ay kulay kaya gamit ko rin na lang. Given natin ay ito. So, given tayo 0.25 grams of sample, precipitate natin ay 0.2912. Nahanap yung percent KCl. So, we can use yung molecular weight ng silver chloride at potassium chloride. So, we can follow this formula naman. So, nag-solve na to for you. So, percent, magsimula tayo sa ating precipitate times yung molecular weight ng ating precipitate. Wait lang, para masundan nyo. Kaya yung precipitate, molecular weight ng precipitate, times yung kanilang molar ratio, no? Which is 1:1 lang naman yan. Then, formula weight ng ating KCl divided by total amount ng ating sample times 100. So, dapat makuha natin is 60.59%. Then, sa next problem natin, what mass of potassium iodide is needed to convert the copper in 0.2750 grams of copper sulfate pentahydrate to copper iodide, no? So, ang tinatanong is, what mass of potassium iodide is needed to convert the copper in, ito yung sample natin, no? Calcium pentahydrate, yan yung sample natin. So, kailangan daw natin i-convert into copper iodate. So, ang given natin, ito, convert sa copper iodate. Then, we have to find yung grams of potassium iodate. So, we can use yung molecular weight ng copper sulfate pentahydrate at saka molecular weight ng potassium iodate. So, yan. Magsimula na tayo sa ating product or sample. Yeah? Simula tayo sa sample natin. So, 0.2750 times molecular weight ng ating copper sulfate pentahydrate. So, ano lang yung parenthesis. Tapos, 1:1 lang din naman yan, yung molar ratio nila. So, pwede nyo rin i-check. Dapat, alamin nyo kung paano yung balance equation nila. Tapos, yan, pagdating dito, 2:1 na, no? Sige, kailangan ko yata i-present yung balance equation. Pero dapat, marunong din kayo magsulat ng equation, no? Sige, i-present ko sa inyo. Yun. So, balance full molecular full reaction ito, no? Para makita nyo. So, potassium tuloy. Potassium mo, ano potassium? So, copper sulfate pentahydrate, no? 5H2O triaqueous plus 2 moles ng KiO3. So, actually, pwede ka na mamaya lagay yung mamaya ko nalagay ito. So, pero yun na talaga yun. Aqueous yields. So, paano yan? So, magiging ano siya, diba? Ano target product natin? Copper iodate to solid plus K2SO4 plus 5 water na liberate yung water natin. Ito ay aqueous. Okay, so yun yung full reaction. So, kailangan nyo lang i-balance yung potassium. So, lagyan ko lang to dito. So, balance na. Yung IO3 to din naman. Okay? So, ito. So, saan nakuha yung so, sabi dito, buburin ko yung highlight kanina, ha? Para malinawan kayo. Okay. Yan. So, nag-start tayo sa ating sample. Tapos, molecular weight ng ating copper sulfate pentahydrate. Then, 1 mole nito katumbas ng or is related to 1 mole ng copper iodate, no? So, 1:1. Kaya tayo may 1:1 ratio dito sa portion na to. Next. So, conversion from copper iodate to KiO3 or potassium iodate. Kasi, ang gusto natin malaman is grams ng potassium iodate. So, 1 mole of copper iodate is related to 2 moles of potassium iodate. So, doon nakuha yung 1:2 dito sa part na to. No? Ito. Okay? Then, next, kinonvert lang yung moles ng KiO3 to grams ng KiO3. So, dapat ang nakuha sa ganyan dyan ay 0.471 grams. Okay? So, dapat kahit pa paano, no, marunong kayo magsulat ng balance equation. Huwag kayo ma-intimidate dito sa may ganitong part, no? So, usually, naliliberate lang naman yung water sa dulo. Tapos, ang gagalawin nyo lang dyan, itong part na to, tsaka to. So, pagpalitin nyo lang sila. Ito na yun. Okay? So, exchange lang naman yan. Next. So, medyo putol-putol tong ano natin, PowerPoint. A sample of an impure iron ore is approximately 55% weight by weight iron. If the amount of iron in the sample is determined gravimetrically by isolating Fe2O3, what mass of sample is needed to ensure that we isolate at least 1 gram of Fe2O3? So, anong hinahanap ng problem? So, yung ore natin is 55% iron, no? So, if we isolate iron as Fe2O3, ano daw yung mass ng ore na kailangan natin para makakuha tayo at least 1 gram ng Fe2O3. So, yung logic natin dito is 1 gram of Fe2O3, po-convert natin yung grams ng iron doon sa Fe2O3 na yun. Tapos, grams ng ore needed. Given na meron tayong 55% weight by weight iron. So, step 1 natin is, actually, nandito na yung problem. No? May mali lang sa equation na pansin ko. So, step 1 natin is convert natin yung 1 gram of Fe2O3 to grams ng iron sa dulo. No? So, unang-una, multiply natin siya sa formula weight ng Fe2O3. Tama. Then, after that, makakakuha tayo ng, dito na may something wrong sa ating equation. So, ito ay 1 mole ng Fe2O3. So, yan. Mali na siya, no? Hindi tayo makapag-cancel dito. So, buburahin ko ngayon itong part na to kasi may mali. So, ito tama natin yung mali. So, dito, so, anong nila? Relationship nila in terms of mole. So, 1 mole of Fe2O3, ilang moles ng iron? 2 moles ng iron, no? Kung kailangan natin. Okay? Tapos, so, 1 mole of iron, gagamitin lang natin yung formula weight ng iron. 55.85 grams of iron. So, medyo putol dito sa dulo na to. So, buburahin ko ulit siya. Lilita ko yung sulat ko. Hopefully, mapagkasya ko siya. Okay. So, next natin dito is meron tayong 100 grams ng ating ore over 55 grams ng ating iron. Ito yung 55%. Mali. Ito yung ay, nabura na yun, ano? Gulo na. Yan. Ito yung ito, 55% weight by weight, no? So, naka-reverse lang. So, kailangan kasi natin yung grams ng ore. So, kapag kinompute nyo yan, guys, although kahit may error, yung sagot ay dapat 1.27 grams, pero 1.3 grams na lang. Kasi yung pinakamaliit natin is 2 sigfigs. So, hindi kinakount yung moles ng sigfigs, ha? Yung ano lang. Yung pinaka-given lang. Okay? Next. So, next natin. So, organic pesticide daw has 8.43% chlorine. So, 0.627 grams ng sample containing the pesticides plus other materials containing no chloride was decomposed with metallic sodium in alcohol. Dami nang nangyari. The liberated chloride ion was precipitated as, yun lang yung keyword doon, precipitated as silver chloride, weighing about 0.081 grams. So, calculate natin yung percent pesticides in the sample. So, meron tayo 8.43% chlorine, 0.627 grams ng sample natin, 0.081 grams of silver chloride precipitate, pinapahanap si percent pesticides. So, sundan lang natin tong, actually, kaparasya nung nasa previous problem. So, start tayo sa precipitate, tapos molecular formula ng precipitate, tapos 1:1 lang naman yan with the chlorine. So, 1 mole ng chlorine is 35.45 grams. Then, yun, yung sa percentage. So, 8.43 grams over 100 grams ng pesticides. Tapos, meron pa tayo dito 6.627 grams ng sample, no? Kasi sinabi ko ilang grams ng samples. Meron tayo. Times 100, no? Dapat ang makuha natin ay 37.9% pesticides. So, simple lang naman yan. Or on, lang yan, stoichiometric relationship. Tapos yun, gravimetric factor lang yung gamitin nyo siya. So, hanggang makuha nyo yung kailangan nyo. So, I think this is the last, no? So, what way of pyrite ore sample, so ore na naman, must be taken place for analysis so that the weight of barium sulfate precipitate obtained will be equal to 1/10 of the percent sulfur in the sample. So, meron tayong, sabi dito, what weight of pyrite ore must be taken for analysis so that the weight of barium sulfate, so meron tayong weight of barium sulfate daw na dapat equivalent to 1/10 ng percent sulfur content ng ating sample. Medyo tricky siya, no? So, ito yung formula dyan, or hindi, ito yung way ng pag-atake. So, sinortcut dito yung gravimetric factor. So, tandaan nyo, ito yung hanap natin, sought natin, tapos tinumbang lang natin is barium sulfur. So, ang sought natin is sulfur, tapos ang way natin or precipitate is barium sulfate. So, this is the GF, gravimetric factor. So, 1:1 lang naman yan kasi percent sulfur tas barium sulfate, 1 lang. 1 mole lang, or makikita nyo na yung sulfur ay 1 lang naman sa both species. So, we have grams of barium sulfate over grams ng sample times yung gravimetric factor times 100, no? Okay. So, kapag nire-arrange natin yung ating formula, ito. So, we have percent S is equal to, yun. So, nilet natin yung grams ng barium sulfate into 1/10 ng percent sulfur. So, we have 1/10% sulfur over grams ng sample times 13.74. Ito yung gravimetric factor, no? 13.74. So, rearranging, makukuha na natin yung grams ng sample natin. So, we have here percent sulfur, maka-cancel na yan. Cancel na yan. Tapos, 13.74 divided by 10. Okay? So, ito ay 1/10. Kaya pala sabi ko, ano itong lumulutang dito. Yan yun. So, 13.74 divided by 10 is 1.37 grams. Okay? So, yun. Ganun lang siya, guys. Yung sa gravimetry. So, ito na yung lesson natin for this week. So, ganun ulit. I-check lang natin yung quiz nyo. Short meeting lang tayo sa face-to-face natin Saturday. So, yun. Ito ulit yung references. So, same lang naman yung references. So, hopefully, nag-grasp nyo. Pwede nyo naman balik-balikan tong video if may hindi kayo na intindihan. So, yun. Thank you.